I am Daniel Cruz.
And this is Mick, the Doctor of Digital.
Welcome to Music 101. Music 101 is created to empower music itself and, of course, legendary icon in the music industry. Another year, Mr. Mick.
Happy New. It's here.
Happy new,
Ready or not.
happy new. Yes, people. Another year of Music 101, and we are trying our best to give you a good topic that entertain you, to give you information in your daily life. So, Mr. Mick, what we gonna talk about today?
Well, I think this is a fascinating and interesting topic because I like both music and cars. Sometimes people call you a car head if you're into, or gearhead if you like cars. So this is the automotive symphony because cars and music, there's a tremendous connection between the two. And they've been long machines for not just transportation, but they symbolize many things. It's not just getting from point A to point B, but they symbolize freedom, adventure, and status. And in popular music, the automobile has played a very central role in inspiring countless songs that capture the essence of youth, rebellion, and romance. So there's an automotive theme. I'm going to do the evolution of cars and music, especially from the 1950s to the 1970s, but concentrating on the earlier period because there's so many songs about this. So I'm going to have to try to break this up a little bit. So if you didn't hear your favorite song, stay tuned. We might have another episode on this very topic. So the popularity of car culture and recorded music grew up at roughly the same time. And from the earliest times of both, artists were singing about cars and what they've done from the earliest days of rock and roll. In particular, that's why the 50s to the 70s is so important. There's been a staple of American music. What else but a classic by, of course, the inimitable Chuck Berry and Maybelline that celebrated the freedom of excitement, cruising down the highway, the car serving as a symbol of rebellion and nonconformity. And as the decades pass, cars continue to play a central role in music. Bruce Springsteen, Tom Petty, and others capture the nostalgia and longing for that open road. So beyond the role in shaping the soundtracks of our lives, cars have also influenced the way that we experience music. And there were new genres that grew up: surf rock, hot rod music, specifically designed to be played while cruising down the highway. And some of us were cruising way back when, back in the day. Cars continue to play a role in the way we consume music, with many artists incorporating car culture into their music and aesthetic. So, in conclusion, from the sleek, high tech interiors of modern cars to the retro styling of classic roadsters, the automobile remains an integral part of our musical landscape.
Definitely. And very well said, Mr. Mick. Very well said. And thank you for all those music. So what are some road or car songs previous to the 1950s?
Yeah, so the cars and music have been very connected for a very long time, especially from the 50s, but there are some that really from the earliest times. An earliest road theme song is The Road to Mandalay. It was actually a poem written by Rudyard Kipling and features lyrics about traveling in that freedom with the open road. So early on, there was a connection. And then the blues artists, of course, they were also getting very involved. This, so, I'll give an example: Robert Johnson, Terraplane Blues. The Terraplane was a subject of a famous song by Johnson. He was a blues musician in the 1930s, and it's a classic of the blues genre, still widely performed and recorded today. In 1936, when Johnson first recorded this blues song, automotive double entendres were still relatively new, but then again, so was driving itself. And here Johnson says, the coils ain't even buzzing, he laments. The little generator won't get the spark. As the song goes along, Johnson reveals that someone's been driving his terraplane since I've been gone. The lyrics resonate with raw emotion. He's going to weep and moan. He does have insurance, though, in the form of a woman that I'm loving way down in Arkansas. So most driving songs are about the freedom of the road, but this one, like a few of the Johnson songs, is about the poison of jealousy. He says, please don't block the road. So a Terraplane is a brand of automobile that was produced by the Hudson Motor Company from 1932 to 1938. The Terraplane was a line of cars that was designed to be more affordable and accessible to the average consumer. It was marketed as a more modern and stylish alternative to traditional Hudson models. And it was known for its sleek and streamlined design, which was influenced by the Art Deco style of the time. And it was praised for its performance, handling, and reliability. The Terraplane was available in a range of body styles, sedans, coupes, and convertibles. It was popular, especially among young people and families, and maybe that's why it's the subject of the song. There's also Walter Rowland T model blues, because of course the T model was the very famous and the car that really got all kinds of people into car driving in the first place. And as Henry Ford said, you can have it in any color you like as long as it's black. So, T Model Blues is a classic blues song that tells the story of a man struggles with his woman, and he compares her to a T Model Ford automobile. This song was recorded in 1935, has Roland's soulful vocals and masterful guitar playing, and he laments the troubles he's having with his girl, who is not a Cadillac, but only a T Model Ford. So the lyrics are both humorous and poignant. Roland sings about the falls, the frustration he feels when she breaks down on him. The song's a great example of the storytelling tradition in blues music and its themes of everyday struggles and the human condition. And there's another one, talking about double entendres. There's Cleo Gibson. I've got a Ford engine movement in my hips. So this was recorded in 1938. It's a rare and obscure blues recording that showcases Gibson's unique vocal style and storytelling ability. The lyrics describe a woman's movements being inspired by the sounds and rhythms of a Ford engine, with Gibson's soulful vocals bringing the song to life. I've got a Ford engine movement in my hips is a fascinating example of the creative and often humorous ways that blues musicians use to express themselves. It's a little bit of off color and a double entendre. And then there's Memphis Minnie, who also had these great song that Led Zeppelin eventually picked up on, the Levee. So this is Me and My Chauffeur Blues. It's a classic blues song that has the singer's sassy attitude and storytelling ability. Recorded in 1929, the song tells a tale of a woman who's got a new beau, a chauffeur who's got a fancy car and a smooth ride. She sings about the thrill of being driven around town in style. It's a great example of the blues genre's ability to capture the everyday experience and emotions of working class people, and Memphis Minnie's performance is both charming, convincing, and sexy. And then there's a song that gets recorded all kinds of times and was a hit, Get Your Kicks on Route 66. That's Big Joe Turner in 1938. And that, of course, is a classic. Route 66 was the way to get from Chicago to California, and it was the only way for a very long time. So Route 66 is a famous American song and a very famous car song. It's an early version by Big Joe Turner. It's written by Bobby Troup. Turner's version is a bluesy, upbeat tune that showcases powerful vocals and piano playing. However, it was Troup's later recording of the song that became the most famous and iconic version, and that was also recorded for his friend, Nat King Cole, my parents' favorite singer, recorded it in 1946. It's a huge hit. It's become a classic of American popular music. Troup's version is more polished and commercial take on the song, featuring a catchy melody. That song became a huge hit, reaching the top 10 in the Billboard charts, cementing its place as a classic of American popular music. And that way, it's come up in numerous films, TV shows, commercials, and remains a beloved and enduring symbol of American culture. So another hit there was King Cole with Route 66. And as post-war was kind of also encouraging more travel, because after the World War II, people had cars and they were traveling all over. The song names 10 stops on the route from Chicago to LA, including Joplin, Missouri, Flagstaff, Arizona, and don't forget Winona, of course. It could all come off as corny, but instead, it's a song's retro charm. Interesting thing about Route 66, at one time, because of the rumble strips that were placed on it, if you drove your car exactly 45 miles an hour, it would also have a song, America the Beautiful. Very interesting. So, great song, come back numerous times, several hits over the years. There's Lightning Hopkins, Ride in Your New Automobile. So this is a classic blues song recorded in 1947. It's Hopkins' distinctive vocals and guitar playing, and he sings about the thrill of cruising down the highway in his new automobile. And it has some historical significance because this is a growing popularity in post-war America and the blues genre to capture the everyday experiences and emotions of everyday people. He's also got another song, Automobile Blues. So I guess Lightning Hopkins did like some cars as well too. And this was a song that's a timeless blues classic. And so the blues artists really started to pick up on this. And this, of course, is going to have a big influence on early rock and roll. So, in conclusion, numerous car songs prior to the 1950s paved the way for the birth of the car culture in the 1950s.
Yes, car culture in the 1950s. Thank you so much for sharing those melodies. Until now, it's still lingering. So, how in the 1960s did cars become symbols of rebellion and freedom?
Well, you might want to say something about the 50s first, because we got a transition that's going on in early rock and roll. So the
Oh,
car
yes.
culture in the 50s are really where things got, more popular. So it was a surge of popularity in rock and roll with Chuck Berry, Little Richard, George Lee Lewis. Songs like Maybelline captured the excitement and rebellion of the era, with the cars serving as that symbol of freedom and independence. The music was raw, energetic, and infectious, and it helped to cement the car's place as a central part in American popular culture. Saw the rise of the cruising culture, where teenagers would gather in parking lots and drive around town, listening to music and enjoying each other's companies. The boys were looking at the girls were looking at the boys, and you were showing off your cars. And some of us remember that era. If you've ever seen American Graffiti, that was immortalized in that particular film. But that phenomenon of cars and teenagers really immortalized in Rebel Without a Cause, and the cars were a key part of the narrative. And the music of the 1950s, with its emphasis on cars, freedom, and rebellion, helped to fuel this culture, create a sense of community among young people. So the 1950s were an integral part of American cultural heritage, a bygone era where life was simpler and the open road was the ultimate symbol of freedom. And very interesting, because there is some controversy and debate, of course, what's the first so-called rock and roll song? But one of them that has been often mentioned was Jackie Brenton's Rocket 88. That was released in 1951, previous to Elvis Presley. But it was actually Ike Turner, Kings of Rhythm, of course, Ike and Tina Turner, also very famous in her own right. Brenton was a singer and saxophonist, and the title introduces the Rocket 88 model Oldsmobile. Original single was issued on Chess Records, of course, very famous for blues artists. The song has a rollicking piano, honking saxophone, fuzz tone guitar, bluesy vocals, and driving beat. And it may be what people would say the first rock and roll song. So Brenton is said to have suggested the song to Turner, who inspired by the Oldsmobile Rocket 88 full-size sedan, which roared off Detroit assembly line 2 years earlier. And so that may be the first rock and roll song, and it's also about a car. So you can kind of combine the two of them. Another interesting one, roughly the same time, about 1951, Lee Sweetland, and that's kind of that double entendre that keeps going on. Here's the title. I'm not making this up, but he put in a bar in the back of his car, and he's driving himself to drink. So Lee Sweetland, 1951. It's a humorous song written and recorded by Lee Sweetland. Tells the tale of a man who's taken his love of drinking to new heights, literally. So the lyrics describe how the protagonist has installed a fully stocked bar in the back of his car, complete with a mini fridge, glasses, and a bottle owner, and he drives around able to indulge in his favorite pastime without ever having to leave his vehicle. So the song's chorus says he put in a bar in the back of his car and he's driving himself to drink. It's a clever play on words and highlighting the absurdity of the situation, because we all know you should not be drinking and driving. So talking about the teenagers and cars, there's a famous scene in Rebel Without a Cause from 1955 with James Dean. It's the so-called chicken run. So the two teenagers get in their cars, and the first one who jumps out of the car is the chicken, because before the cars go over the cliff. And that was a famous scene, of course, and it had the phenomenal James Dean, Sal Mineo, and Natalie Wood. And it's talking about the moral decay of American youth, critique the parental style, and the different conflicts between generations. So you got both the film and cars together, and also cars were central to that particular scene. And then there's Chuck Berry, mentioned Maybelline, but how about No Money Down? So that's a song written by Berry in 1955 as a young man who wants to buy a new car, but is hesitant to part with his hard-earned cash. I know the feeling. But his lyrics cleverly weave a tale of temptation and temptation's consequences as the narrator is lured in by the promise of no money down and a low monthly payment. And of course, then if you get a car, you still got to pay for it. And that's kind of the point there. And with early rock and roll, Johnny Cash, I've Been Everywhere. It's a song originally written in 1958. And how does he do it? Of course, he's in his car. So early rockers really picked up on this whole connection between cars and music. And Cash talks about a semi and a high and canvas covered load. He picks up mileage faster than a Ferrari. In a little over 3 minutes, Cash cites 90 states, cities, counties, and countries while backed up by the Bakersfield country rock vibe. Final verse finds the singer hitchhiking in Winnemucca, Nevada, a town that in recently had less than 7,800 people. He jumps in the semi cab. The driver asks him if I've seen a road with so much dust and sand. And Cash's assured response, listen, I've traveled every road in this here land. So it's all about traveling and getting around. So I mentioned Chuck Berry's Maybelline. So this, of course, is one of the most famous early rock songs and also about a car. Classic 1955 romantic rivalry between the narrator and a rival suitor over a woman's affection. And that is really one of the earliest songs that really broke the charts and got into everybody's head. So Maybelline. Another cute song that a lot of people remember, also from the same year, the Playmates, 1958, and their song Beep Beep. I kid you not. So it was a huge hit. It reached number 10 on the top 10 of the Billboard charts in a classic doo-wop style, harmonized vocals and a catchy melody. And the lyrics are all about the car's horn beeping, and the song's chorus repeats the phrase beep beep continuously. So that's a beloved classic of the doo-wop genre. And it's a popular group in the 1950s, as doo-wop was. Interesting, they first were known as the Nitwits, and then they got into the whole business of just releasing kind of joke or novelty type songs, and that's what they built their entire career. Another famous song that's actually, again, hit more than once, you come back in the 70s, and I'll talk about that at some point, but Hot Rod Lincoln. It's a rockabilly hit in 1959 for Charlie Ryan with an insistent slide guitar standing in for a horn. And it came back 1972 with a faithful rendition by Commander Cody and his Lost Planet Airmen. So it's in the lyrics, as my poppy said, son, you're going to drive me to drinking if you don't stop driving that Hot Rod Lincoln. So Ryan apparently got the song driving his Lincoln sedan up the Lewiston grade outside of Lewiston, Idaho. Before he knew it, you had a hit. Speaking of songs that come back more than once, Vince Taylor and his Playboys sing Brand New Cadillac. That was released in 1959 and later covered 20 years later by The Clash. It's a rockabilly and early rock and roll song that features Vince Taylor's distinctive vocals and driving rhythm. And it's about a man who's obsessed with his brand new Cadillac and willing to do whatever it takes to get his hands on it. So notable for its lyrics. And in conclusion, that song's chorus, which repeats the phrase brand new Cadillac, has been interpreted as a metaphor for the desire of material possessions and the American dream.
Yes, New Cadillac, the birth of car culture in the 1950s. Thank you so much. So, this is my question a while ago. How in the 1960s did cars become symbols of rebellion and freedom?
Yeah, it's tied in with the time and the era, of course. So that was a decade marked by social change and a desire to break free from traditional norms. And musicians began to use cars as a metaphor for adventure and escape. So that song that I mentioned, Get Your Kicks on Route 66, became an anthem for the era because once again, it came back in another way. So, written by Bobby Troop, it's a vivid picture of a journey along the iconic Route 66 route that you go from Chicago to California with the diners, motels, and roadside attractions. And Route 66 was also used as the theme song for the TV show, also entitled Route 66, that played from 1960 to 1964. So again, it came back in another way. It was on TV as well. So as the 50s gave way to the 60s, car continued to play a central role in American culture with the rise of rock and roll and counterculture. But before that, there was more traditional, a symbol of American identity, and especially Southern California lifestyle. Who else can be mentioned when you talk about music and Southern California, but of course, the Beach Boys. So the Beach
Yes.
Boys, I Get Around, was a big hit for them. And that was a classic cool kids anthem in the summer of '64. And the Beach Boys proved that the Cali Kids could do youth culture smashes as well as those four mop tops from Liverpool. So, despite this being the height of Beatlemania, the song was a huge commercial success, peaking at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 charts on June 27th, 1964, staying at the top for 2 weeks. Interestingly enough, it was also a hit on the Billboard R&B chart, peaking at #5. So that song's success helped establish the Beach Boys as one of the leading bands of the surf rock and pop music genres and remains one of their most popular and enduring songs. And all having to do with West Coast cruising, and nothing better than that feeling of driving along on a Saturday night with your buddies and looking at your best girl and finding a girl, and the girls looking at the boys and the boys looking at the girls. But the Beach Boys really got this whole Southern car culture going. They also recorded, of course, another one of their classics, Little Deuce Coupe by the Beach Boys. That was featured in American Graffiti as well. It's a tribute to the classic Ford Deuce Coupe, a popular hot rod of the 1950s, and it describes the thrill of driving a Deuce Coupe with its powerful engine and sleek design. The song's chorus, Little Deuce Coupe, you're the one I'm talking about, becomes an anthem for the joys of driving and the freedom of the open road. With its catchy melody, harmonies, and surf rock rhythms, Little Deuce Coupe is a classic Beach Boys song that captures that carefree spirit of the early 1960s, especially since it was not quite where we had the social upheaval in the latter part of the 1960s. A carefree spirit of Southern California youth, a lifestyle with sun, surf, and endless possibilities. Song was a hit, peaking at #15 in the Billboard Hot 100 chart in '63, and of course is one of their beloved classic of the surf genre. So I'll have more to say about Jan and Dean, also part of that Southern California car culture, because their hits are almost entirely car based. But their version of Little Deuce Coupe was released in '64, charted at #24 on the Billboard Hot 100 charts. Both versions were successful, but the Beach Boys' original version was more successful, peaking at 15, while Janet Dean was at 24. Here are the lyrics, also well known. Well, I'm not bragging, babe, so don't put me down, but I've got the fastest set of wheels in town. So you're trying to impress your girl by having a car, of course. But the Beach Boys went on to do more and more songs about with the car culture. Shut Down by the Beach Boys, which of course has to do with racing, and it's the competitive spirit of car culture. It's the excitement of racing and the pride of owning a fast car. So yes, what happened? The kids would get their cars and race each other, because what else are young teenagers going to do but you know have fun and try to
Have
race them
fun.
around. So
Yes.
there's a song that's a tribute to the world of drag racing, but street racing, they call it. The song's chorus, shut down, shut down, shut down, becomes sort of an anthem for the thrill of competition and that rush of adrenaline. Shut Down was a classic song, was a moderate hit, peaking at #23 in 1963. The Beach Boys' Fun, 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 of course, is another song, was part of a whole genre of songs that have to do with the California driving. And the lyrics about a teenage girl who deceives her father so that she can go hot rodding in his Ford Thunderbird. At the end, the father discovers her deception, takes the keys from her. Near the end of the song's narrator suggests that the girl accompany him so that they may have fun, 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 now that daddy took the T-Bird away. So it's also based probably on an actual incident, and that's where the lyrics came from. So Salt Lake City radio manager was an early promoter of the Beach Boys who brought them to Salt Lake City, and the song was inspired by the incident involving Shirley Johnson, the station owner's daughter. And Johnson had borrowed her father's '63 Thunderbird, and also supposedly to go to the library. Instead, she went to the drive-in, which was a hamburger place, and the deception came to light. Driving privileges were revoked, and she complained about it on the radio station. And the Beach Boys happened to be there for an interview, and they said, "Hey, that's an interesting incident." And they wrote the song about it. So it was inspired by an actual incident that happened. Song's electric guitar introduction to the song based on Chuck Berry's Johnny B. Good, and really had some of the drum fills inspired by the work of a guy we've talked about here on the show, Phil Spector. So it had that wall of sound, and great tune, backed by Why Do Fools Fall in Love. and a big hit for them, and also known for that lyrics of got in her daddy's car and she cruised through the hamburger stand now. Beach Boys are certainly not done. The Beach Boys 409, talking about an engine, of course, a tribute to the iconic 409 engines, high performance V8 engine produced by Oldsmobile in the early 1960s. And it's the thrill of driving a 409 car, because if you've got a big car with a big engine, what are you going to do but race around with it? Not that all of us have not done that, but I did have a 350 V8 at one time, and maybe I did a little bit of that. So don't tell my mother. The song was also a hit and peaked at 76 on the Billboard Hot charts, but it's a fan favorite. It said, well, I saved my pennies and I saved my dimes, for I knew there would be a time when I would buy a brand new 409. So, in conclusion, the Beach Boys' influence can be heard in many other rock and roll songs that follow about cars, and they remain a beloved classic band of the surf rock and hot rod culture genre.
Yes, Beach Boys. Thank you so much for those melodies. So, Mr. Mick, in addition to car culture of the Beach Boys and Jan and Dean, who else contributed to the surf rock car-oriented so-called lifestyle?
Yeah, almost the entire career of Jan and Dean had to do with cars and culture. So they had a number of hits in there. They talked about in Bucket T, Little Old Lady from Pasadena, Dead Man's Curve, and you also had Drag City. You had I Gotta Drive, Drag Strip Girl. You had Surfin' Hearse. You had Schlock Rod, Part 1 and 2, Surf Route 101, Stingray,
Mhm.
and Hot Stalker. So almost the entire career was built on the Beach Boy sound and cars. But there are a number of other people who contributed. Ronnie and the Daytonas GTO, which of course is a tribute to the Pontiac GTO high performance muscle cars introduced in 1964. And it described the thrill of driving a GTO with a powerful engine and sleek design. And the lyrics go, she beats the gassers and the rail jobs, really drives them wild. So it's a huge hit, peaked at number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100 charts. You also had the Ripcords, Hey Little Cobra, which was, of course, after the Cobra, which is a fast little car at the time, a popular sports car of the time, had a sleek design, powerful engine. And Hey Little Cobra, Don't You Ever Stray becomes an anthem for the joys of driving. This also peaked at number 4, which is hot Billboard 100 charts. The Stingrays and Jags were so far behind, I took my Cobra out of gear and let it coast to the line. So it's kind of bragging about how fast that car was. I don't even have to have it in gear. So there's also the 3-window coupe by the Ripcords, song written in 1964. It's also a classic 3-window coupe, and it's a tribute to that popular hot rod of the 1950s. The song's chorus, 3-window coupe, 3-window coupe, you're the one I'm talking about the joys of freedom and culture of Southern California at the time. It peaked at number 24 in the Billboard Hot 100 charts in 64. And then there's, of course, the classic Chuck Berry, No Particular Place to Go. So he's got a hit, which is like a warm breeze riding down the highway, and there's no particular place to go. He's just driving his car and enjoying it. It's a story of a young man who's eager to escape his mundane life and find adventure with his sweetheart. With his catchy guitar riffs and memorable lyrics, No Particular Place to Go became a huge hit, peaking at number 10 in the Billboard Hot 100 charts. And it's become one of his most beloved songs, of course, as well. So, in conclusion, Barry truly pulls a listener in when he swoons, cuddling more and driving slow with no particular place to go.
Yes, yes, yes. And thank you so much again for those songs and melodies. So, how can we conclude this episode of the car in popular music, Mr. Meg?
Sure, from the earliest years and then throughout the 1950s and 1960s, cars held a special place in popular culture, representing freedom, adventure, and status. And these car songs illuminate the ways in which the automobile has shaped cultural narratives, reflecting the desires and aspirations, particularly of young people in society. So, as we listen to these timeless classics, we're reminded of the car's enduring legacy in music, It's not merely a mode of transportation, but a powerful symbol that captures the spirit of youth, rebellion, and the pursuit of dreams. The automobile theme in popular music will continue to inspire the future. So if you didn't hear your favorites, stay tuned. There'll be more because this reminds us of the excitement and freedom that comes with the open road. So if you knew of others 1960s songs, like maybe, oh, I don't know, Mustang Sally by Wilson Pickett, Drive My Car by the Beatles, you didn't hear them now, but stay tuned. You may hear them another time.
Yes, stay tuned, people. Stay tuned. The term automotive symphony evokes the harmonious interplay of a mechanical precision and emotional resonance within the world of automobiles. So, people, another great episode. I hope you will continue listening Music 101 because Mr. Mick and I want to make these episodes or want this new year bigger, better, and bolder.
That's right. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to everyone. So, Mr.
Dave.
Mick, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Daniel. Deus Volt.
What do you got, people? See you soon. Here we go. We're next.